Hey everyone. I am so glad you are here. Welcome to the Bren Harris podcast, episode 63. And we have such a treat for you tonight. Many of you know me, but for those who don't, I founded Warrior Moms by Bren when my son was medically injured at 22 months of age. And we have walked through hell. Now we walk through it like we own the place, and you can too. Why do I say that? Because your story matters. And today we have an amazing guest. She is an author, a CEO, and a speaker, and she is teaching people how to write their story. Please welcome our amazing guest, Miss Janelle Villiers.
Thank you so much for having me on, Bren, on your platform. This is amazing. I'm really, really honored by it because I love what you do and what you stand for and your commitment to help these warrior moms out there succeed in life and in business. And so thank you so, so much for having me on.
You are most welcome. We're honored. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So I am a former professor. That's a recent title of graduate students. I'm an Ivy League graduate, super nerdy, studied bioengineering, got like all this like background in science, but then was introduced to business through network marketing, the worlds of personal development, and then during COVID, everything stopped and shut down, right? So we all had a moment to think about what are we doing? What's going on in my life? And I was there too. I was looking at some of the behaviors that I was doing that were super self-sabotaging, both personally in my romantic life and also in my business, and trying to like come to terms with that and figure out like what's going on there. And God and YouTube brought into my life Tim Fletcher. He's a pastor out in Canada, actually, and he has a whole YouTube series about shame-based thinking. And I was like, oh my God, this is it. This is the thing that I've been going through. And it inspired me to really just share my story, because I was like, you know, there's got to be more than just me. There's got to be other people who are going through the same thing. And if my story can help someone else, then even if it's that one person, then it's worth it. And so I started to write. Fast forward 2022, self-published my book. It's available everywhere, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, you can get it at Target, international bookstores, the whole thing. That was a lesson, right? So it took me 2 years to get that done, learned a lot along the way. But since then, I've been on several different podcasts. I've been interviewed on a TV show, a radio show. I did a book tour, an in-person book tour in New York City, Fort Lauderdale, and Chicago, and now doing virtual book tours. And so it has been quite a journey, but I'm so moved by all the people who I come in contact with, who either engage with me in conversation around things that have happened in their life and how we connect through my story. And now what's been amazing are all the people who ask me like, well, how did you do that? How did you write a book and self-publish? And like, how did you do that? I'm like, well, actually, I can actually teach you all the things that I wish I would have known, right? What took me 2 years now, I can share with people in 2 hours. And so I'm really, really moved and inspired by this group of people who I am now with to help them get their message and get their stories out into the world. And so that's a little bit about me and kind of like this like trajectory that I've been on.
No, I love it. I love it. Well, let's start at the beginning. You have a backstory that talks about shame, and that led you to write and process and go through. And now you're doing what took you 2 years. You're teaching people in 2 hours, which I love as a busy warrior mom. And when did you first call yourself a writer?
You know, it's funny. I'll be honest with you. I've been writing since I was in middle school. I was in love with poetry and started writing poems, and even did like fiction books for like my friends. Like I would write these stories about famous people that we knew, like these stories. Shout out to Chris Cross. Definitely they were characters in one of my stories in middle school. And so like I think I always felt like I had something in me to write, because I remember doing that when I was younger. And I think if it was less the identification of a writer, but more like who would want to read my story, right? So you can be a writer, but like who's gonna read it, right? Like
Right.
I think that's where a lot of the doubt that many people have, and what makes them pause, right?
Right.
So, for example, the New York Times did a study on adults in America, and they asked them, "Do you have a dream of writing a book?"
Huh.
And 81% of adults in America said, yes, I have a dream of writing a book, right? But here's the thing, the other side to that is only 1% of them actually do it, like actually publish a book and get out.
Wow.
So I was like determined to help get more people into that 1%, right? Like, how can I help more? Because these stories that people have, they're just stored up in their brain, but then they just die there, right? Like they
Right.
literally die. It's that what's that analogy we've heard, is that the graveyard is the richest place on earth,
Right.
right? Because that's all the dreams
Mm-hmm.
died with the people
Mm-hmm.
there. So anyway, I just feel very called and inspired again to help those people.
It's a
Feel-
worthy calling, and I am for one grateful. I know many others are that have gone through your process. And hang with me here. Do you have a distinction between author and writer? If so, what
Yeah,
would that
because
be?
a writer can write, right? Like you can be a
Uh-huh.
writer, you can be a ghost writer even, right? But are you an
Uh-huh.
author? An author to me that means that you almost take ownership of what's out there,
Ooh,
and I also feel like it's published. It's
right,
published out there. I mean, okay, I won't get into like screenwriting, but like for a book, right? Like
right.
to me, an author is someone who has every intention of like making it available to other people to read.
Oh, oh, love it. And
Yeah.
sharing their work.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, right. Hey
Exactly.
guys, if you're getting value, please let us know in the comments because I just love hearing Janelle's story. And if you're on the live, put an L. If you're on the replay, put an R. And when we talk about publishing, what's one of your least favorite aspects about the publishing portion of being an author?
Yeah. So I just had a conversation with someone today, actually. They were like, can you go over some like pros, cons of publishing? And I think number one, there's a lot of mystique around it. Um, P.S. This is a part of why it took me 2 years, because I was just trying to like uncover like what's underneath all of this. Like, how do I figure out what you're supposed to do?
Yeah.
Um, how does someone get a publishing house to even like represent them? Like, what is that even about? Of course, it's not the easiest thing in the world, especially if you're
Right.
not famous or in the entertainment
Mm-hmm.
industry. Like, how does that even happen? And then what is left to you if you don't go that route? And
Right.
okay, so then self-publishing, what's that? And do I want my book only available on Amazon? Or do I want it available elsewhere? Like, I have relatives who live in the UK, for example, and I was like, I don't know, like, wouldn't I want them to have, whoever people speak English, and so like that thought, even I think you're just kind of locked into one way of thinking, and then once your mind expands, now you're super curious and you're trying to figure out like, well, what else is out there, and like I didn't even know that was possible, and so what is the best way, and or what's the best way for me, even because what
Right.
may be best for you may not be best for another author. And so I think for me, the biggest pain was trying to peel back, like, and
Ooh.
understand what's going on here. What are the services available to me? Is there any help, or am I really all on my own? And trying to talk to some people who had some clue, but then ended up going to YouTube University anyway. And even that's really convoluted. And I mean, and a part of that has to do, I know you didn't ask me, but the bestseller process is kind of in that, like the uncovering bit. It's like, wait, somebody can become a bestseller. Like there's a process for that, like a step by step how to do that. And what seemed almost like a shot in the dark, like that would never happen in a million years, now all of a sudden seems extremely possible. And so that was just the painful part. It was just peeling back those layers, trying to figure out how this all works and what would be best for me.
That brings up a great point. The mystique and all the layers and the lack of clear direction or a system to habit stack and find the way path toward goal. What did you have a system each day where you would chip away at this and win your day, or what would a typical day look like in wearing the author hat?
Yeah. So one of the number one things people say to me is like, I want to write a book, but I don't have the time. Right. So a lot of times it's like, who would even read it? And then after that, it's like, well, I don't have the time. Like, I don't have.
Yeah.
And I love when people say that. I'm like, well, I mean, if you say you don't have the time, then you don't have the time, right? Like, I'm gonna believe you. And so what happened is I like a mind shift. It was okay.
Ooh.
I'm super busy, but like it all of a sudden became a priority.
Ooh.
So how do you like if when something is a priority to you, that means that no matter what's happening in your day, you're going to get it done. And for many people, that means get it done before anything else can happen in your day to shift you off track, right? Because it's a priority. It's not a I want to do it or like if it gets done. When something's a priority, it literally becomes the thing that you're doing one of the top three
Ooh.
things that you're going to do in your day. And so if you make it a priority, your day will look different because now you're going to set aside time to make sure that you get in the writing, the actual getting the thoughts and the things out of your head and like onto the paper, or the laptop.
Right. Right.
So what my day looked like, I was waking up earlier than I'd ever really been waking up on a normal
Mm-hmm.
basis, right? I typically wake up around 5:45. That's like very common for me. But
Mm-hmm.
I was waking up at 5 to make sure that I could get in the writing before everything else, right? So
Oh, wow.
and it's not forever. I knew it wasn't forever. I just needed it to do this in order to make it work. So I have like pictures of me and videos of me, like, this is me. Sun's barely up, and I'm here on like writing it down.
Oh, that's cool.
So it's everyone's priority is going to look different. That's just what my priority looked like. It was a 5 o'clock thing. And guess what? You did it or I did it until I had what I needed out. And then, I could go back to waking up 5:45, 6 o'clock, right? Whatever that time is for you normally.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. And I want to recap just so we don't lose this.
Yeah.
Priority, your top 3 priorities for the day, waking up earlier when we have that purpose. My understanding is that was a pretty significant routine for you because you made it that priority. Is that what I'm hearing?
That's right. That's right.
And did you have a set amount of time that you would write?
Yeah, I tell people all the time too. This like changes. So I had a life coach at the time, and we focused on what he called micro goals. Shout out to Josh Valentine if he's ever on here.
Hey, Josh.
And at the time it was pages. Like he was like, all right, let's have a micro goal of like you're gonna write X amount of pages each day.
Ooh, yeah.
So to your point about like win the day, it was that. And so I focused on that. And then I realized that like made me a little bit more anxious. And so we switched it to time. So I went from, okay, I'm going to write this many pages a day to I'm going to write for 30 minutes, 45 minutes. And that was more manageable. So it was like, however many pages it is, it doesn't matter. But at least I've gotten in the time.
So a time block.
Yeah.
Okay. And first things first.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's really powerful. I'm finding, and I don't know if this is true for you, that less and less I need an alarm clock when I'm walking in purpose and championing my calling.
Sure.
And we have time for things that we make a priority.
That's right.
Okay.
That is right.
I hear you. I hear your passion. I love it. What do you see? Or at what point do you think someone should call themselves a writer or an author? Author, published. Let's stick with writer.
Oops, sorry. Yeah. So, I mean, you're a writer if you're at any point taking your thoughts and I guess writing them in long form. I mean, some people write blogs, right? And so I would consider that person a writer. Some people write in their journal. I would say you're a writer for sure. It's just you haven't gone from writing in that, like, writing for self almost, you know, to
Oh, yeah.
writing for an audience. That's probably where the shift starts to come in. Blogging certainly is for an audience, but people read blogs, I think, a lot of times because it feels like the person's writing for themselves. Like that's
Right.
like more
Right.
interested in it, right? Um, so that's why I think a lot of times the shift comes. Like, you're a writer the minute you just start writing and just trying to get thoughts from head to paper. And the transition to author, I think, starts to become when you're like, okay, now I'm not writing just for myself. This is for other people to consume.
Wow. Hey guys, I see you chiming in. Yes, journaling counts. And please let us know if you're watching this or you're listening to this at a different time. Please don't hesitate to reach out to either Janelle or myself.
Yeah.
We are our Instagram contact is on there, and we are live on multiple platforms. So please feel free to reach out. And Janelle is super approachable.
Yeah.
We appreciate that about you, Janelle.
I'm a
And,
real person.
yes, she is. Yes, she is. One of the things that came up when I was just praying over talking with you is, how do you define writer's block, and what do you do to go through that, to work through it?
I think I would define writer's block as a moment when you find it's like almost overwhelming to write anything, and so people just don't. I also feel like a little bit of procrastination, more so for me, when I'm like putting it off. Um, One of the best ways for me personally, to overcome the writer's block is to write about something else that has nothing to do with what I'm like consumed about. Like, oh, I must write this, and that's like
Oh, okay.
causing me to be really anxious. I have a friend who did this really great writing exercise where it was just put up a scene, like you know, they'll just put up a picture that, like, you find, I don't know, you can Google image some picture, and then literally just write about what you see and just try to be as detailed as possible. So if it's a picture of a mountain, and well, is it a snow-capped mountain, or is it a mountain full of trees? You know, like, is it a hot day, or is it a very cold day? And like, what do you think the wind is like? Like, if you were walking up this mountain, like, so you just try to get, you know, write about something completely different, and it just kind of gets you in the zone. You're just kind of, it's like an object in motion stays in motion. The hardest part of starting is just starting. And so, like, once you're just kind of there writing, it becomes much easier to then say, okay, then these are the words that I wanted to use to describe this thing that I was somehow like not doing, right? So that has been that to me is the most fun way to get over the writer's block. Another thing that I have also used is just, that's like completely outside of the work, right? Or the book that you're working on. But within the book that I'm writing on, I might just jump to a totally different section. I'm like, I don't know, this is like too much. So let me write about another section or topic that I wanted to talk about. And so that also is helpful.
Oh, that is so powerful. Object in motion stays in motion.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. And the hardest part is to start. So you're jump starting, you're priming that pump to write. That's really powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Really powerful. What advice would you give someone that is looking to write their first book?
So if you got the idea, I would say outlines are really, really powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Just to have a sense as to, okay, what are the main points that I want to get across? What are the main teaching points that I want the reader to take away, or really want them to learn about?
Uh-huh.
If you're writing, so I wrote a memoir like book. So for those of you who don't already know, I wrote a book. It's called I Slept with a Married Man. Am I Still a Good Person? Available everywhere. You can go. There is no other book with this title, so you can. It is available as a soft cover rather. It's also an ebook, and it's now an audiobook, so you can find it in
Excellent.
places. Wait. Oh no, I got totally sidetracked. Process? Was it process? No.
Yes. process to write your first book?
First book, right. So the outline. So for me, this was really helpful. I had a couple of points that I knew I really wanted to cover. So you just write out your points. When you're writing a memoir, it's like the lessons learned with like the biggest takeaways. And so like jot those down first. And then you're able to go in and fill in like, okay, these are the things that happened to describe the lesson, right? In order to make the lesson become a story. Like these are the different things that happened. And I have found that those people who are writing fiction, it's similar in that it may not be certain points that you want to get out, but there are certain things in the plot that you want to make sure happen. So you have a main character, you know, the main character is going to go through point A, point B, point C, and maybe even a D. And so you want to make sure, okay, what are A, B, C, and D? What are those points? And then go back and fill in a little bit. Okay, so then this is going to happen during A, this is going to happen during B. And then you can go back and then really start filling in, right? And then that's when you're writing like the detail, the prose itself and all of that. I have found that extremely helpful, especially because you can just go down a rabbit hole. Like you get stuck in a section or a chapter and you're just like writing things like, and then you're like, wait, how did I get here? Like, is there a point? So you can always go back to your outline and it'll bring you back and you're like, oh, okay. I think I'm done with this part now. It's okay to move on to the next. Or maybe you're not finished and you're like, oh, wait, like I started, but I really want to make this point clear and I haven't yet. So I need to do some more work here. So that's the number one thing I would recommend is the outline. And also to encourage people when you're writing, there is no right way to do this. Like people think like, oh, there's a wrong way. I don't want to do the wrong way. I want to do the right way. You can start wherever you want. You can start in the beginning, start at the end, start in the middle. It really doesn't matter. You can do whatever makes sense to you. But I think the outline helps to kind of like bring it all together. Don't edit your work by yourself. I know you think like, but like, who can I trust to read my baby that I just birthed? Right? Like, who can I really trust? Like like it's the Erykah Badu thing. Like I'm an artist, so I'm sensitive about my ish, right? Like that's what we're talking about. I get it. Yeah. You're really sensitive about who's going to read it. And so find somebody that you trust, find somebody who is like a real supporter of the message that you're trying to get across, the story that you're getting across. I get it. You're going to need to find someone that you trust. But don't do it yourself. I know a lot of people who just think like, oh, like I'll just read it like 10 times over. But what's crazy is the mind, because you know what you're trying to say, you will glaze over so many mistakes, so many other, like it's wild. And so please just don't leave it to yourself to edit. Please find somebody to edit.
Amen.
And then thirdly, when you're ready to self-publish, I would really seriously think about where you want it to be made available. Where do you want people to pick up your book? And I know for many of you, you're like Amazon. Like I know so many people, but if there was a way that people could get your book at a Target, at an airport bookstore, at like, and again, internet, at a library, like, do you want your book available at a library even? If those are the types of things that you think maybe I would like it to be available there, then don't just stop at Amazon. Like it doesn't have to be just Amazon. It can be more. And so I would implore people to start thinking about that because that'll help navigate you in the direction towards the service provider that is helpful to get you in the places where you want your book to be.
Oh, that's so powerful. Just a quick recap. We're talking about publishing our book and getting started. And what I hear you saying is just start. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be at the beginning or the middle or the end. Just start. And that object in motion stays in motion. Am I getting that right?
That is correct. Yeah.
And the important part is to take away the layers. And we're going to say, how can we learn all of this? Everything that Janelle took 2 years to do, she can teach in 2 hours. Can you let us know how we can learn more about that?
Sure. So I'm really excited because Monday and Tuesday coming, so June 3rd and 4th, can you believe it? It's already June. So,
oh my gosh.
So Monday and Tuesday, June 3rd and 4th, from 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern. If you're on the West Coast, that would be from 7 is 4. So from 4 to 6 p.m. your time if you're on the West Coast. I'm doing a 2-day virtual book tour summit. super excited about this because on day one, I am teaching everyone what took me 2 years to learn. I am teaching in 2 hours how to write, how to edit, how to self-publish, and even how to get on a bestseller list.
Woo-hoo.
Day two, I'm really excited because we're bringing on some other authors, some self-published authors, and they're going to be sharing with us their book, what inspired them, and even giving us tips that they've learned through their process so you can hear from others, not just myself. And essentially, we're creating community. The biggest thing for me is I was alone doing all of this. No one to talk to, no one to shoot ideas with, no one to really gain support with or anything. And so I really feel very strongly about creating community, creating people who are on similar paths, have similar dreams, who can support each other in that process. So I'm really excited to bring that to everyone. If you know someone who's an aspiring author, if you yourself are a part of that 81% of people who've been having a dream to write, it's free. It's free. Come and check it out. Spend some time with us, learn some things, and hopefully you'll gain some clarity on the next steps towards writing your book.
Oh, that sounds so powerful. And just so you know, I am signed up. Where this is, we practice what we preach here. And is that something you could put a link in?
Yeah, sure.
On Instagram and or Facebook, or you can send it to me and I can include it in the repost?
Absolutely. I will send it to you, and I will see if I can't put it in the comments now as we're talking.
Great. That would be amazing. And what I love is that you're just so transparent with all of this. This is a very big deal. And you teach it so easily and so matter of fact. First this step, then another step, then another step. And we don't have to walk around the maze and spend 2 years wandering in the desert. So thank you so, so much.
No more wandering in the desert.
Oh, hey, you guys, please let us know in the comments what was your big takeaway. And if you are listening to this at a later date, let us know. Oh, thanks, Janelle. The link to register is in the comments on Instagram. You will need to copy and paste that into your browser. I don't think the link will work on Instagram. And what I love is that you're very transparent and very authentic, no matter what setting. Janelle and I have been in a mastermind together for 2 years, and she's consistent every single time our large group meets. And I just really appreciate you sharing your heart tonight. You are helping many people. And guys, let us know your big takeaway in the comments. And I love that you are, I cannot believe it's already June. When you said you were having your next 2 day in June, I'm like, oh, that's a ways away.
Right.
And it's here. Just for those who may have just joined us, please remind us when it is again. It's June 3rd and 4th. What time?
So 7 to 9 Eastern both nights. If you're on the West Coast, that would be from 4 to 6 p.m. Excellent. East Coasters 7 to 9, and then you figure it out in between.
And Central.
Central time. Central time. That's 6 to 8 Central time. That is 5 to 7. 4 to 6 Pacific.
Oh yeah. Thank you so much, and know that you are making a difference. Hey everyone, be authentic, legendary, and unapologetically you. We'll see you in a few.